change the alternator and air conditioner belt on your 4th gen Maxima. Applies just the same to the 5th gen, the 5.5, probably the 6th gen and above as well. I don't think they've really changed the tensioner design very much. Obviously timing cover, and overflow for the radiator, your horn, and there's the belt tensioner for the alternator AC system. Damn. And that's what everyone calls an idler pulley. I call it a tensioner pulley because it's a pulley on a tensioner. Makes sense to me, but whatever. So all you really need is a 14mm wrench and a 14mm socket. I just use a foot-long extension and 3/8 ratchet. First thing you're going to do, now you don't want to go wrenching on this bolt here. That does just the tensioner, but the pulley is locked in place by this nut. You can't really see, it's on the side. Actually you can see it when the magnet's not there. This nut right here. They're both 14mm. The nut's 14mm head. This is bolt, 14mm head. Actually, this is really a nut, but whatever. So first off, you're gonna need to get down in there and loosen that 14mm nut on the tensioner pulley. The easiest way is just go underneath. Obviously, if you got the underbody splash guard still on there, or you have the splash guard in the fender right here that covers the belts, you'll need to remove one of those. Mine are long gone because they just get in the way. So I work on the damn car so much. As you can see, there isn't much room in there. You can't really put a socket and ratchet in there. So you can use a wrench. Now it may be tight. It will be tight. So you can just double wrench it. Get a really long wrench. Leverage. You just want to loosen that up. You don't need to take it apart. If you do, well, obviously they'll all come apart, but there are all sorts of washers in there. You really do need to go back in a specific kind of order. So once you got that loose, you can go ahead and loosen up your tensioner here. And if it's starting to feel really tough, you don't want to, again, you don't want to, just start twisting the hell out of it, because you probably will break the damn thing off. Then you get to go to the junkyard and find one. Yay! So once that's loose, then your belt is nice and loose, as you can see. Just take it and you can slip it off anywhere. Since the tensioner uses the back side and it's smooth, it's probably the easiest place. Slip it off like that. There you go. Now it comes right off. Now checking the belt, and obviously you can do it with it on the car, but I really don't want to see this. Yeah, it's all completely cracked to hell. A couple of these little cracks running perpendicular to the grooves are fine. As you can see, this one's just plain wore out. I really should replace this. If you have any, any of these are missing, these little groove teeth here, if there are chunks missing out of it, then you want to replace the belt. But generally, if it's just as cracked up as this one, you want to replace it. This one still works fine for now. Alright, now putting it back on. I like to go ahead and reach up, put it on the alternator, run it down along the compressor over to the crank pulley. So you got this little loop right here above the tensioner. You get your hand in there. Get it off the alternator. Now if it does keep on fighting you, like it feels like the belt's too short, get on everything. Well, one, make sure you got the right belt. If you're putting on the one that was on there, obviously it's not a problem, but if you do get the wrong belt, have a hell of a time trying to put it on. If it does kind of fight you, like it doesn't want to go on there, just loosen up the tensioner some more. So now that the belt is on, you can tighten up the tensioner. Now, you don't want to pay attention to the torque on this bolt. you want to check the torque. You want to check the tightness of the belt. You could use like a belt deflection gauge, just the proper way, or you can just do it by feel. If you've never done a belt before, you probably don't want to do it that way. You can just, feel the power steering belt for roughly how tight it should be. This one's about good. So you don't want to over tighten it. You won't necessarily break the belt, but if it's too tight, it puts a lot of load on all the other pulleys. It pulls the pulleys in, tries to squeeze them together. So that accelerates wear on those items, like for this one, for the AC compressor and the alternator. Not so much the crank pulley. So you need to tighten the shit out of it. So yeah, that can lead to decreased lifespans for those items. Wear the bearings for the shaft the pulley rides on. So once that's done, you got this upper nut tightened up, this upper bolt. And you want to go ahead and drop your wrench. You want to go ahead and tighten up that 14mm nut that's on the tensioner pulley. And again, don't need to go crazy on it. Get nice and snugged up. And all that pulley does, it holds the whole assembly in place to keep the tensioner from backing off or moving around, from vibration or whatever. So that's changing the AC alternator belt on your 4th Gen Maxima, and again, for probably pretty much any VQ. It's the basics how to do it. None of the G's and the Z's are just about the same. So yeah.